We have discussed domestic violence on this podcast more than I care to admit. But it is such a big problem, and unfortunately, most of the time, if a wife goes missing or dies, it's generally the husband or significant other. According to the Bureau of Justice statistics, about 34% of women killed in the U.S. in 2021 died at the hands of an intimate partner. There is a reason why boyfriends and husbands are always the first suspects. Welcome back to another episode of Justice 4. We are your host.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Sam. Today's case is one of the largest cases I personally have researched. I just know that I've missed some details or something, but I did my absolute best to get all the big information into this. However, before we started recording, we decided not to give each other Christmas gifts, but I have to give you one really quick.
Okay.
It was the gift of secrecy. You know how hard that is for me to do.
Did you lie to me last week?
I've been lying to you for a while, girlfriend. And because of how big this case is, I had to bring a very special guest to come on here to help discuss every single detail of it. Please welcome our special guest, Jen Hall.
Shut the fuck up! Oh my god! Christmas party my fucking ass!
So,
It's like the best day ever, guys.
and as you can see, we've switched spots and it's tripping me out.
This is my sister.
Yeah.
This is who we yell at all the time at the end of our episodes.
I've only yelled at you a couple times, I think.
Fair. It's okay. I
Anyway.
deserve it.
Jen's joining us for this episode. And we surprised Jackie.
Yes.
Yay.
This is our in-house social worker and website designer. Our liaison, if you will.
Yes. So, let's hop into this case. Like, actually get into it now.
Yeah, so now we're going to do a new opening because apparently that's not what we're talking about.
Actually, that opening is very correct.
Oh, was it for this?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Just kidding. That was the opening.
It is.
We hope you enjoyed.
Yes. However, this case is an absolutely wild ride, and we need everyone to buckle up and get ready for the story of the Powell family.
I've wanted to do this episode for so long, and they surprised me with it. It's a double surprise.
So I want to do a little backstory. I suggested this episode because you and I talked a lot about this when it happened in 2011 and 2012. Because I was actually a CPS worker and a supervision worker when all of this happened, and it was really crazy. And you always told me that this was an episode that you wanted to do together. And I always said I would never be on the podcast. So
She did.
surprise.
And now I'm the one reading it.
Yeah, I didn't
Here
even
we
get
are.
to write it.
I made Sam research it.
I'm
But
just
we
happy to
know
be here.
all the stuff.
I know it. I just was surprised.
Good, that was the point. All right, let's hop into this. Joshua Powell was born on January 20th, 1976, to Stephen and Takara Powell in Puyallup, Washington. That's very difficult to say.
It has a lot of P's.
Puyallup.
Puyallup. It's like koala.
Washington. Yes. He had two younger brothers, Michael and John, and two sisters, Jennifer, who was the oldest, and then youngest is Alina. The Powell household was deeply dysfunctional due to Stephen's abusive behavior. He would be verbally and physically abusive with Terry. They were originally very involved of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, also known as the LDS Church. They did what they could to raise the kids within the LDS Church and ideals, but eventually Steve very much decided that he did not want to be involved at all in the church and had a lot of disdain for the LDS religion. He was very controlling over Terry and the children. Terry got so sick of the way she was being treated, she decided to divorce Steve, which is very strange for that religion. But she's like,
bet you he would have wished he stayed in now. Because then they wouldn't have got it would have been more frowned upon to get the divorce.
But according to divorce filings in 1992, Stephen shared pornography with his sons and refused to teach and enforce limits on certain behaviors. John Powell, so one of the middle brothers, had a lot of mental issues. He had drawings of his room of swords and the no-no squares of women and the swords stabbing the no-no squares.
All right, so we're into a little bit of mutilation.
Vagina.
Why didn't we just say it?
I know.
I'm over here resisting
But yeah,
the song, but
it all seemed like pretty gnarly. It seemed as if all of the men also in this family had some type of addiction to porn as well as child pornography. Ugh.
and it was the theme to pray it away.
Pray it away.
Pray it away.
Pray it away.
Also, Stephen had isolated his sons from their mom.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he did the parent alienation, and they basically turned against her and anything to do with her.
Mm-hmm. As a teenager, Joshua allegedly killed gerbils belonging to his sisters and then threatened his mother with a butcher knife because she asked him to do the dishes.
You know, normal childhood behavior.
Dare you ask me to do dishes? He also actually attempted suicide while he was in high school because of how violent Stephen was to him. He was really mean to him. And I don't know if it was because he was like the oldest or because of something else, but he was just not nice to him at all. Jennifer was the eldest, and she saw how her mother was treated and how Steve would treat the rest of the kids as well. During the divorce proceedings, Steve received custody of the boys, so Josh, Michael, and John. The girls did go to live with Terry. However, the youngest, Alina, eventually moved back in with Steve.
That's so interesting.
I know, and I'm not sure why, but I know that at one point Steve accused Terry of witchcraft, like in the divorce paperwork.
And we're in Utah.
No, they were in Washington.
Oh, well, never mind.
Who knows? Good on you, Terry.
What, okay. I mean, with the alienation, I'm not surprised that he finagled custody, but...
Yeah.
Witchcraft, okay.
Witchcraft. That's what we do. Anyway, back to Josh. Still. But I know. By the late 1990s, Josh was living in Tacoma as a student at the University of Washington. It was here that he began a relationship with a woman named Catherine Terry Everett, whom he met at a local LDS church. After the two moved into an apartment together, Josh exhibited possessive behavior towards her, clearly.
Shocking.
I wonder where he learned this from.
So many things about Josh make sense now that I know about his dad. Because I didn't know a lot about Steve before this, so I've learned a lot in that. And Josh makes a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm. Ex-girlfriend, Catherine, she later recalled he refused to allow her to visit her family by herself and added, quote, "He would have restrictions and limitations on what I could and couldn't do when it came to my family," end quote. At one point, she went to visit a friend in Utah without Josh, and that's when she decided not to return to Washington and broke up with him over the phone.
And that's what you're supposed to do.
Period.
Good for her.
Like, snaps everywhere. Mm-hmm. Good job.
So now, let's get into our beautiful angel of this story, Susan Marie Cox. She's a vibrant and loving individual who grew up in a close-knit family, also in Puyallup.
It's like
Washington.
Puyallup.
Yes. She was born on October 16th, 1981, to Chuck and Judy Cox, and had a relatively happy childhood with her siblings. She was the third youngest of four sisters, and she was actually really close with her... I don't remember if she was the youngest or the next oldest, but she was like the bad girl of the group, of the sisters.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Susan was always there for her, and
Got you.
she was just lovely.
Susan loved the black sheep of the family.
Absolutely, she did. Susan was described by those who knew her as a kind, thoughtful, and ambitious person. She enjoyed outdoor activities, singing, and creative hobbies like knitting and gardening. Her strong faith in the LDS Church was an integral part of her identity, shaping her values and outlook on life. She was a hard worker and pursued education to improve her future prospects. She actually trained as a cosmetologist and worked in that field for some time.
Woot woot.
I heard a little bit of conflicting stories on this next part that it was either her and her best friend or it was her and her sister. They wanted to open up a salon called Beauty and the Beast, where it was a hair salon and a pet spa.
Oh my God, I love that
Isn't
so
that
much.
adorable?
Oh,
Yes.
I love that.
She later transitioned to working in an office environment, focusing on financial. She worked in a bank, man. Okay, but I'm gonna touch on that part later when we get into it further. Susan met Josh when Josh was still a teenager through the church while attending events within the community. So they knew each other, but nothing happened between them for years. They eventually reconnected and then married in 2001 when she was only 19 years old and he was 25.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh wasn't super involved at the church in the church at the time that they got married, but Susan was really hoping to bring him back into the community and into the faith. Susan's friends at the time said that they thought Susan was with him because she felt sorry for him. But there's no like actual evidence to like back that up, but it's just really funny personally. Maybe she did like him. I don't know.
Well, she liked him a little bit.
At least a little bit. Many of her friends and family also said they did not like Josh very much at all. He was loud and was always talking and had to have the last word. The first couple of years of their marriage, they were living in Puyallup, but they were having some financial troubles since Josh could not hold down a job. So they decided to save money, they were going to move in with Josh's father, Steve.
Awesome.
And at first, things seemed like, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But then Susan started getting a really weird vibe. One day, she told a friend that she caught Steve watching her undress.
I remember this.
She actually went and confronted Josh about it, and he accused her of seducing Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was when Susan realized that Josh was just not a good person when he's around his dad. But, whatever. Unfortunately, things started getting worse. Steve would actually try to sneak into the bathroom while she was showering. Susan said that he actually groped her a couple of times. She also found up to 50 love songs that he had written about her.
I wish we had a recording of one.
I don't have a recording of the songs, but we have other things. Just wait. So at this point, she's like, nah, bro, we're moving. I'm out. We got to go now. So they ended up moving to West Valley City, Utah, which is a suburb of Salt Lake City.
We weren't in Utah yet. We were getting there.
Now we are.
Now we are. I was really confused. I was like, I know we're in Utah at some point.
At this point with the move, this is when Susan moved away from doing hair and got a job working at Wells Fargo. Being the vibrant, outgoing person that she is, Susan had absolutely no problem making friends super fast. Most of them were members of the LDS Church. She even had a salon actually set up in her home, and she would do her friends' hair when they would ask her to.
Nice.
Yeah. So
little side income.
Actually, she never charged.
Action.
She actually never charged any of her friends, and Josh was super upset with her because of it.
Well, I mean, he wasn't working, so she needed to bring in more money.
Yeah.
Period. But we'll get into
Susans
all
are
of
so
this.
sweet.
Yes. All of her new friends, yet again, did not like Josh.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. They described him as very dominant in conversations and said he just never clicked with anyone. One friend even described him as, quote, legendary for being incredibly controlling of Susan, end quote. Dear listeners, if you or anyone you know describes someone like that, please, for the love of all things holy, save them.
Pick them up and literally move them away from this, like, just physically remove them. Because we're done.
Not the thing you want to be legendary for.
No.
I agree. I completely agree. But despite the strain with her family and friends, Susan and Josh ended up having 2 children together.
I don't know how.
I mean, I have an idea, but...
Yeah, but... Oh.
I'm not going to look into it further.
We just got him.
So they had Charlie in 2005 and Brayden in 2007. Unfortunately, having children didn't change Josh at all. Actually, while she was in labor with Charlie, their firstborn son, she asked Josh, who didn't have a job at this time, to take her to the hospital, and he told her to call her parents to take her. Because he was busy. He was busy.
Was a cat sitting on him?
No, that is a good excuse, though. Do you want to know what he was busy doing?
What was he doing?
Backing up his computer.
Oh. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, now is the time to remember that her parents live in Washington.
That's not convenient.
No.
Yeah. However, I do remember reading something that they may have been in town specifically for the birth of their grandchild. So I think they actually did take her to the hospital. So I think that
when
worked
you
out.
back up a computer, can't you just like walk away from it and let it do its thing?
That's why our phones update when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, sir, this wasn't that long ago. Calm down. Okay. Anywho, so then Charlie is born. Yay.
Yay, Charlie.
Josh didn't come to the hospital for 2 hours after he was born.
I'm so surprised.
Mm-hmm. And then he just sat there on his computer. Like, yeah. So he brought a computer with him to the hospital. The fuck? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then, you may be asking, well, why didn't she take the car? Well,
Because she was in labor.
That's also one thing Josh really controlled. He would not let her take the car unless she asked permission. Yeah. So the Wells Fargo she worked at was 7 miles away from their home, and he told her that she should actually just get a bike and bike to work, to and from work. I know that 7 miles in your head may not seem that far.
No, it is. No, that's far. No.
It's actually pretty fucking far. And especially on a bike in all sorts of weather. Thankfully, our girl fought back on this. When she told Josh no, he actually went and got a bike. Actually, she paid for it, obviously, because he wasn't working. But he got a bike and biked to her work to try to prove to her that it wasn't that big of a deal. But after he did it, he never mentioned again, and she never had to take the bike to work. So,
I'm also, impressed that he even did that, so...
Unfortunately, this isn't the only thing he controlled. He would control what she wore, what she would buy from the store, basically everything.
Ugh.
There was a report actually that I read that he made her knit her own socks instead of buying them because it's a waste of money. Also, yarn's not cheap.
What in the house elf is this?
Yeah. I don't know, dude. He also made her keep a spreadsheet of the money that she spent and would also control everything that she would be getting at the store. He would control what she and the kids would eat. Sometimes they actually wouldn't even have food, and she would have to reach out to her friends and be like, hey, I'm really sorry, the kids are hungry. Are you willing to give us some hot dogs so my kids can eat? They ate hot dogs so frequently that she tried to mix them in with other things so they didn't seem like they were eating hot dogs all the time.
Yeah.
But they had to get protein somehow. It's sad. It's awful.
Yeah.
There was also documents that stated she was keeping her garden very, very, like, kept just so she could have food from it. Yeah. However, good old Josh kept just buying shit. Just so much shit. Computers,
With his
electronics.
whole job of nothing?
Huh?
With his big old salary of nothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. So, computers, cameras, electronics, RC cars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a bunch of stuff. And it was obviously just for him. Like, you could tell. And the way I would have personally crashed out on him, considering I would, like, she was the only one working, he wasn't working at all, I would have lost my shit. For sure.
Yes.
So, to make matters worse, he would actually listen in on phone conversation. Oh my, I'm going to redo this line because I can't say conversation.
You did it that time, I'm proud.
Thank you.
No problem.
So, to make matters worse, he would listen in on phone conversations that she would be having. So, she couldn't actually tell anyone what was going on. Her family said that she would be on the phone and she just wasn't her, like, bubbly self with them. She would be very monotone and emotionless, and they just knew he was listening in. There is only so much you can do for someone in that type of relationship. Like, you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves.
Well, and the boys.
Yeah. However, with this being said, Susan was not that type of person. To a point. She confronted Josh about some of these issues and told him that they needed to go to counseling. He actually agreed to go with her.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a counselor at their church. Well, excuse me, the church she went to that he rarely attended. And he rarely let the kids go to church either.
Okay.
Yeah. He would turn to them and be like, "Do you want to go sit at boring church with Mom? Or do you want to hang out with me and go get ice cream?" Like, of course they're not going to go to church with you saying it like that.
Valid. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so, regardless, he did go see this counselor with Susan. But he didn't actually participate. He's there. He was there. He would show up. But that's about it.
I went.
Yeah. I'd go to counseling with you. Okay. Then he stopped going altogether. She told friends that he told her he didn't want to have anything to do with her sexually either after she had given birth. So she, like, yeah. So she would do everything she could to, like, keep up her appearance, like, did her nails, her hair, went to the gym, I guess worked out around the house.
Yeah.
Since she's not allowed to leave. But she also convinced him to let her become a consultant for Mary Kay, which is pretty cool.
Which is shocking, because she has to talk to a lot of people and, like, do a lot of stuff, so, like...
Leave the house?
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
Because we're not quite into the time of, like, live streams and, like, all the stuff online
stuff.
yet. We're,
Yeah.
like, we're at, like, the beginning of Facebook times. We're not really, like...
Kind of. So she did post on Facebook. She had posts on Facebook.
But it wasn't, like, where we're...
Not super, like, now.
Like how I just finished the legging documentary. Not like them.
Like the LuLaRoe live stream.
Thank you. Yeah, like all that. Like we're not to that point of like doing it there.
And I don't think that they had like the Facebook parties.
No, they
like,
didn't have that
quite
pages.
Yeah.
We weren't quite there yet, so she did have to like leave the house. We weren't like in the era of like
had
online
like the little
parties.
spa parties, and you get like
you could actually go and
soft hands, and,
satin hands.
Yes,
we're gonna move.
We'll go there.
I'm not gonna keep going into this because I will.
We love Mary Kay. It's a problem.
We do. So, unfortunately, nothing helped. She then confronted him and told him that she's not happy in their marriage anymore. And I'm sure you can imagine how he took this.
Oh, he took it wonderfully. They went to mediation. They had a great time about it, and they settled on a few things, right?
Right.
I'm just kidding. We wouldn't be here talking to you if that's what happened.
Yeah, he actually told her that if she was to leave and take the kids, it would be over her dead body, not his.
And if you... Never mind.
Yeah. So...
Foreshadowing. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you didn't think he followed through on anything, hold on.
Soon, Josh demanded she sign over her life insurance policy to him. There were actually life insurance policies on all of the family that would pay out over $1 million each for Susan and Josh and $250,000 for the boys if something happened to them, any of them, within 4 years of signing. So it was a total of $2.5 million.
Also, listen, stop making yourselves worth more money dead than alive.
Period.
If you're in volatile marriages.
So she told her friends that she was going to give him until their 7th wedding anniversary to change. And if he doesn't, she's going to divorce him.
7th?
7th. Which would have been the, spring after she was talking to her friends.
Okay. We've already given him 6.5 years or so. Why do we need to give him longer?
7 is a very, big number in religions. So it might have had something to do with that. Or because she was just like, we need to change.
Maybe.
So she's giving him a little bit of time to, and then that was just their next anniversary.
So it would have been the spring of 2008.
Okay.
We're going to fast forward a bit. So on Monday, December 7th of 2009, the lady who owns the daycare that they take the boys to, her name is Debbie Caldwell.
Okay.
She tries to call Susan to see if Josh was bringing the boys by. Susan was very prompt with dropping them off and picking them up, and Josh wasn't. Clearly. He would drop them off super late or pick them up super late, after the daycare closed. So Debbie's sitting there waiting. How frustrating. Susan doesn't answer, but she knew that Susan would have messaged her if they weren't coming in at all. So Debbie tried calling Josh, no answer. So she tries calling both of them at work. Neither of them had made it in. Debbie then calls the emergency contact for the boys, who happens to be Josh's older sister, Jennifer.
Okay.
Debbie tells her that the boys were never dropped off, and she can't get a hold of either Susan or Josh. Jennifer then calls her mother, and they both try to reach both of them. With no answer, they run over to the house to see if someone's home or if they can get in. No one answered the door, and they weren't sure what to do. They were actually worried that there may have been a CO2 leak, since there was actually recent deaths in Salt Lake due to that, recently. So they were super worried about that. They called the police to come. Yeah.
A very random and odd thing to be happening at this time anyway. I mean, I guess it is wintertime, and that is when it's more common, but
they were
odd.
There was also reports of, faulty CO2 alarms, but it's still rare for CO2 leaks to happen that frequently for people to die.
And,
I think I remember hearing something about, they were new build houses, and there was something wrong that was causing it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. But that's what they thought was happening with Susan and Josh and the kids. So they call the police to come over and do a wellness inspection. The police arrive, and with the permission of Jennifer and Terry, the police break a window to get inside. Once inside, the police clear the house, and everyone comes in. They notice that Susan's purse is still in the bedroom. There's a stereo blasting music, and 2 box fans running in the living room pointed at the couch that showed 2 very wet spots on them.
Because that's always what you want to see as a police officer when no one answers their phone.
Totally. There's a mountain of dishes in the kitchen and an uneaten pancake sitting on top of the trash.
Weird.
Yeah. But there was no sign of the Powells. So they kept calling both Susan and Josh over and over. Finally, Josh answers. Jennifer asked him, Where are you? Where's Susan? Where are the boys? Why aren't you at work? Why didn't you answer before? What the hell is going on?
You know, like any concerned auntie would.
Absolutely. And here's what he answered for all of those. He says he was at work. Jennifer was like, well, that's a lie.
No, you weren't, sir.
Yeah, she was like, no, you're lying. I know you're not at work. He's like, well, Susan's at work, I guess.
Sir.
Okay. And then he was like, oh, I thought today was Sunday, so I didn't realize I missed work. You literally just said you were at work, sir. Okay. And then he said his phone was off to save battery, and that's why he wasn't answering, because he didn't take a charger with him. So, go ahead.
Dude took a computer to the birth of his kid, but he didn't remember to take a phone charger to work.
Yeah.
On his camping trip that we're about to get into.
Yeah.
Weird. Mm-hmm. Yep. So Jennifer tells him he needs to get home as soon as possible. Bitch.
ASAP.
AQAP. As quick as possible. Thank you for understanding that.
You're welcome.
After they hung up, Josh actually checked his voicemail and then called Susan's phone and leaves a message saying, hey, where are you?
I hate him.
Mm-hmm. At this point, Josh, it's been a little bit. Josh still hasn't come to the house yet. So Jennifer calls him again and is like, where the fuck are you at, bruh? He says he'll be there soon, but he had to stop and get food for the boys.
I'm sorry. Does Josh have a missing brother, Barry? Because I feel like their rushing home is about the same sense of urgency here.
Maybe. Josh finally arrives back at the house after another half hour. Boys are safely in the back seat. Susan's still nowhere to be found. The police end up actually escorting him and the boys to the police station to question Josh and try to talk to the boys, since he clearly cannot keep any story straight. Josh starts getting a little nervous. He starts mushing all of his words together and just yapping like he does. There were a lot of red flags in his story as well. So on Sunday, Susan went to church, came home with her good friend Giovanna. She came over and hung out at the house until about 5 p.m. She also was having an ear infection, I believe.
Her friend or Susan?
Susan.
Okay.
Yeah. And Josh decided he was going to prepare dinner for them, probably for the first time ever. So after Giovanna left, Susan said she was going to go lay down for a nap since she wasn't feeling good.
Pause. If your husband is an asshole and suddenly decides to cook dinner for you, let's not.
Pancake dinner.
Let's not.
Also, I have a couple things. One, he stopped to get food for his kids that he never provided food for before. And now he's making dinner as well. Oh, I mean, these were 2 different times, but he made dinner for them. But they rarely got food before.
But also the pancake that's uneaten in the trash can is still okay, because don't they say, you throw the first pancake away?
If you make the pancakes correctly, no, you don't have to throw out the first one.
But, isn't that a saying?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just be better at making your pancakes, Jackie.
I don't ever have to throw the first one away. I give that to my child.
Period. But he doesn't remember what she's wearing. Not even a hint. Nothing. He does not remember anything about her that day, except for that she went and laid down. The rest of the day, he claims everything went as normal. He made pancakes and they watched either the Santa Claus 2. Oh, wait, but it could have also been the Santa Claus 3. You would know.
Right? Know. There's a difference.
Yeah. But then Brayden fell asleep, so Josh took Charlie to go sledding at the park. And then when the police circled back, they asked him, oh, what park did you go to? And asking him about it. Suddenly, he changed his story and said, oh, no, I took Charlie and Brayden to the park with me. And then while they're at the park, he got this idea that he wanted to take the boys camping. Because they really wanted some s'mores.
But it's also a blizzard.
Yes. Yep. We didn't mention that part.
Sorry.
At nighttime.
So he's like, yeah, Of course, Susan's not going to want to go because she's been so tired lately. But I just, came up with this idea really late in the day, like after dinner.
Sometimes I really wonder when they come up with these stories. It just sounds so good to them because they think of nothing else.
I don't know. So he goes on saying, I started getting ready and we weren't able to leave until after midnight. So you're saying you're going to wake up your 2-year-old and your 4-year-old to go camping in the middle of December when there's a snowstorm because you feel like it?
Listen, I wouldn't even wake up a 2 and a 4-year-old 4th of July weekend to go camping.
But s'mores.
Make them at home.
In the microwave.
So the police...
Or in a fire pit.
Yeah. Lighter.
Something.
Gas stove.
So the police ask him, like, did you check the weather app, Josh? If you did, you would have seen there would have been warnings of ice, snow, and cold weather. He goes, no, I didn't. But I thought it was a spectacular idea. So I took the boys to Simpson Springs, which is about a 2-hour drive from the house. And they were all just going to sleep in the car. He said that he brought firewood with them to roast s'mores and heat stuff up. The police were not really getting much from this, so they asked, like, okay, we're moving on. Tell us about your relationship with Susan.
Do you want to know how you can pretty much call yourself an uninvolved parent without saying it? Mm-hmm. List all the things that he just listed.
Oh, because we're going to get into
anybody with a 4 and a 2-year-old is not going to do any of those things.
Okay, as someone who doesn't have children, I also would not want to wake up a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old at midnight. I'm out. No, I don't want to deal with that.
No.
But we're going to touch on what all he had in his car also for his camping trip in a little bit. But let's talk about his relationship with Susan.
Again?
With the police.
Oh. I was like, well, shit, we just did that for like 15 minutes.
So the police asked, this is all quoted, all right? Okay. Any fighting the day before or the night before? No. What can you explain to us your relationship then? I mean, it's pretty good. We have disagreements sometimes, but it's not like we get into screaming fights or anything. Well, not usually, I mean. It's happened a few times, but it's very rare. At this point, Josh also could not name any of Susan's friends. It seemed like he didn't know his wife at all. And he also didn't seem very concerned that the police were actually, like, searching for his missing wife at all, and nor did he ever offer to help.
Of course not.
He's too busy with his children.
He is. He's too busy being a devoted dad.
Mm-hmm. While he was being interviewed, they asked if they could go look in the van. And he was like, yeah, okay, sure. So while the officer was searching his van, they did not find a single trace of any camping-friendly items. No sleeping bags, no diapers for the 2-year-old who, obviously not potty trained at that point. And there was actually no food either. Yeah. They did, however, find a saw, 2 knives, a newly opened box of latex gloves, and a shovel. Oh, wait. And Susan's phone.
Well, I mean, obviously, how else are you going to dig a hole for the fire pit without getting your hands dirty? Okay. And obviously, he forgot his phone charger, so he had to take Susan's phone so that he could still call somebody. I mean...
didn't he try calling Susan?
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
I mean, it's logical. Everything.
Yeah.
Logic.
So now the police have both Josh's phone and Susan's phone, but there's a small problem.
We don't have Susan.
Not just that. Someone had taken out the SIM cards.
I wonder who. Was it Michael or Brayden?
It beats me. Who?
Or was it Brayden or
Charlie? Oh my goodness. So, without SIM cards, you remember this.
You can't do shit on a phone without a SIM card.
You can't do shit. It's also impossible to retrieve call logs without them.
Yep.
So, the police are just like, who took out the SIM cards? And Josh is like, well, I mean, I accidentally took her phone with me when I left to go camping. But as for the SIM cards, beats me. I don't know why they're missing. Bitch. Bitch. So after the police interrogation was over, they took photos of his hands because they were really red and they had marks on them. And then they released him because they had nothing to hold him on.
Because that's not suspicious.
Yeah. The next day, neighbors were actually calling the police to tell them, quote, ever since you released him from his first interrogation, he has been cleaning out his car all day, like a deep clean, just from the garage back to his van, back to the garage, back to his van.
I love these neighbors.
I know. I mean, he's putting things into the washing machine, end quote.
Are we vacuuming the driveway while we're watching him do this? Do we got binoculars? Dear God.
They're better than
just out there
mopping the snow.
Yep, just don't mind if I do. Got the space heater out there. We're just going to melt this and mop it up.
Flame blower.
Yes.
So, he took dozens of trips to and from his car during this cleaning. And Jennifer even stopped by his sister to be like, bruh, what are you doing? Like, and tried to stop him. But at that point, it was just too late. He had already cleaned a lot of shit. He was also scheduled to go back to the police station that day, but he was so busy cleaning his car, he showed up 4 hours late.
That hyper-focus.
Uh-huh. So his second interview went as expected. Useless.
Like he has been the whole time.
Absolutely.
It doesn't get better.
However, he was actually very upset this time. But it was because the police broke a window in his house.
We're not upset that our wife is missing.
Yeah.
We're upset about our window.
He said, quote, why did you have to break the window, though? Did you guys really have to break the window? I mean, Debbie, our daycare person, has a key. So why didn't you just call her? Was it really necessary to smash open a window? End quote.
Is it really necessary to be a douchebag?
They responded, she wasn't there. So he says, yeah. So he says, but you could have called her to get the key, because who's going to fix that window now?
Oh, yeah, because he doesn't work and nobody's bringing in money now.
Yeah.
How would they know she had the key?
Well, she called them.
Huh?
No, she called
she
Jennifer.
wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, she called Jennifer.
She called Jennifer. She wasn't even there.
And then Jennifer called the police.
Why would it... I just... He obviously just cared more about this window being broken than he did his missing wife. Which, okay. And not to mention, something else that was bothering him that he decided to rant about was the fact that Susan had even given Debbie a key to begin with because she didn't ask Josh for permission first.
Can he, help the police out anymore?
It's like red flag, red flag, red flag. What more do you need?
Literally the definition.
Yeah.
Of a red flag.
You look up red flag in a dictionary, and it's probably a picture of Josh Powell.
Josh Powell, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Josh's behavior after Susan's disappearance was evasive and uncooperative. He refused to answer police questions directly, avoided all media interviews, and failed to assist in any search efforts.
Just absolutely awful. Just...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, something I forgot to mention, actually. When he was back for his second interrogation, he brought up the photos that they took the day before of his hands. He said that his hands were just really chapped. And they assumed...
From being in the cold?
Yeah. They assumed he had a cut on his knuckles. And then he actually requested new photos of his hands to be taken. He specifically said, quote, I don't want it to look like there were defensive wounds on my hands, end quote.
Obviously we all know what the intention is of taking, the pictures, but you don't have to spell it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He also told the police that Susan was definitely suicidal because she was probably upset about work or something. Oh, and we aren't affectionate, and I guess that's depressing. End quote. He said that shit.
I like how he just offers things up.
Yeah. They kept asking him questions about him and her and their marriage, and he actually asked if he could have a couple of days to think about it and get back with them with the answers.
You know, I never thought I could hear anything better than literally pulling notes out of your purse to read them.
Yeah.
But that... I'm sorry, could you give me 3 to 5 business days and I'll be right back with you? I need to do a little research.
Yeah, go think on it, sir. Bitch.
May I consult with our couples therapist?
At the same time, they were actually talking to 4-year-old Charlie. And I know a 4-year-old isn't exactly your all-star witness, but
they pay attention and they know more. Kids pay attention a lot and they know a lot. Just ask any kindergarten teacher out there.
The most honest people in the world are drunks and children.
Yeah.
So, Charlie told the police that his dad took the entire family, including Susan, to Dinosaur National Park the night that they went camping. Hold on. Okay. Dinosaur National Park is actually a 4.5-hour drive from Samson Springs.
Which is where he said he went, which was 2 hours away.
Correct.
So we're looking at 6 hours away.
Correct. So that's a little strange. Charlie also said that she didn't come home with him. She stayed where the crystals are. So the police decided that with this bit of information that they had, they're going to detain Josh. But within minutes of detaining him, they tell him he's free to go. So I'm assuming they couldn't get a warrant or something.
Because they weren't going to take it off of a 4-year-old.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. However, they did get a search warrant for the house, the van, and their phones. So when he left, he had nowhere to go. But he got a rental car, and the GPS in the rental car shows that he went to, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this. I'm so sorry, you guys. Tremonti, which is near the Idaho border and has nearly 2 million acres of national forest.
Ugh.
During this time, Steve called in sick to work for a few days. Steve.
Yeah, good old Steve.
It is speculated that they were hiding Susan's body. But again, this is absolute speculation.
So, I want to go back real quick to Charlie and the Dinosaur Park, National Park, and Susan with the Crystals. I know we don't give Josh really any credit in any of this. He's 4. He doesn't know. Yep. Josh could have told him that's where they were going. He only made it to there and just told, this is where they were and whatever. And I'm sure they've been up there before and there is some kind of mine or I think I remember that part actually does check out to where they were camping. The crystal part.
I am not too sure. I know I read somewhere that they had taken a trip to Dinosaur National Park and he may have been recalling that.
Yes.
But.
Or could. Yeah. I could see it more so they've been there, and so that's why he told them that they were going to get the boys to be, and then was I'm not driving 6 hours.
Who knows? Who actually knows? Josh was able to return to his house after the police were done, and he still had not gone back to work or even tried to call them. He also never reached out to any of Susan's family or friends.
I'm so surprised.
Weird.
Well, he didn't know them. He told the police he didn't know any of their friends. He don't know who they are.
And while they were at the house at this time, not many people saw them, just a couple of neighbors. He did have a run-in with his neighbors at one point, and they saw his hands were super red again, and they asked him if he was okay. He said, yeah, his hands were just cold. Then the neighbor asked him, hey, do you know where Susan is? And he shouted at them, it's not like I stabbed her.
Weird response.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversation ended and they split ways and go there. They're like, oh, we don't want to talk to this guy.
See, and this is where I'm different. I'd have been like, oh, What did you do?
So if you didn't stab her, what'd you do, Bray?
I mean, I never said you did stab her, but while we're talking about it.
Yeah. That's where the conversation ended, though. People are not as intrusive as you and I are, I guess. During this time, the police were doing their investigation, of course, and they came across some kind of super scary stuff. Since her purse was at the home, they took it. You're coming home with me. Inside of it, they found a small key. This key was to a safety deposit box at a different bank than the one that she worked at.
Yeah.
Inside of it was a single piece of paper that was folded up, and it said, quote, "If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one. Take care of my boys. For mine and my children's safety, I feel the need to leave a paper trail at work, which will not be accessible to my husband. It is an open fact that we have life insurance policy of over $1 million if we die in the next 4 years." End quote. This was dated on June 28th of 2008.
Yeah.
6 months. Less than 6 months.
Yeah. Listen, if you have to write that note, we need to be done.
This then led them to her work, where they found so many letters and emails that she was keeping because she knew if they were at home, Josh would find them. She was in contact with many friends telling them what was going on. She also was in contact with a divorce attorney.
Oh. Snaps for Susan.
This divorce attorney suggested that she takes a video of all of their assets in the house. That is when they found a home video that Susan made.
Yep.
We're going to play a small clip from it now. I'm going to tell you it's a little eerie, especially because I know what happened.
Yeah. It's
in
a little bit it'll be eerie, but yeah, just watch.
Yeah, you're not going to see all of it, but we'll link it below if you want to watch all of it.
This is me. July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after as much as that's possible. Charlie, say hi.
Obviously, Josh wasn't going to be any help in finding his missing wife. So her friends created a Facebook group to keep her name in the media and have everyone looking for her. Her dad, Chuck, actually did many interviews, like a lot.
Yeah, he was all up and in
everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was telling the press everything about her to keep her in the news cycle. Her friends and family even planned a candlelit visual for her, and Josh and the kids showed up late.
I am shocked.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that he even showed up with the kids, to be completely honest with you.
While there, though, he acted like he didn't want to be there. And one of her friends said that she was talking to the boys, and Charlie told this friend that they weren't eating, and they were basically eating any crumbs that were on the floor because they were so hungry. Josh also asked this friend if he could come by and use her computer since the police took his. Oh, no. But he was apparently creating a website to help look for Susan.
Sure he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing something.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
God.
Listen,
I already know this whole story, but even if unfortunately, I'm just...
Is it the way I say the unfortunately's?
I don't know. But I like it.
Unfortunately, this website was just a bash page against the Mormons, the Cox family, his own sister Jennifer, and the Utah police. Everyone was backing up Josh until this moment. With this website, everyone turned their backs on him. The only people that were still on his side was his dad, his brothers, and his little sister Alina. He actually asked Mike and Alina to come to Utah, not to help look for Susan, why would you do that? But to help comfort him, to cook, to clean, change diapers, do the laundry, and think of ways to get him out of the town without the media or police knowing. Sir. Okay. But first,
wait, there's more.
He had to withdraw money from Susan's IRA account, which was about $10,000, and he had to cancel a chiropractor appointment for her. Okay. He asked Mike and Alina to stay behind watching the kids while he drove up to Washington to see his dad, Steve. He mentioned to his dad, I think Susan had an affair and got pregnant, and that's why she ran away. Deep sigh. When Mike
From a deep eye roll.
I saw.
I forgot.
Yeah. It gets worse. When Mike and Alina were driving back to Washington to join the family, their car broke down, and instead of trying to get it fixed, they sold it for scrap metal, like cheap. Sold it for scrap metal. Keep this in mind because
that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah, and we're gonna come back to it in a little bit. Steve agreed to do some interviews, and it was really, really weird. It was really weird. He just kept saying that him and Susan had a special relationship.
Blech.
He said that the couple, like her and Josh, were only together for the boys. And Susan really liked Steve a lot, but not as a father-in-law.
Blech.
She really liked him.
Blech.
Blech. Ugh. When they were living together, she apparently was very open about her sexual ideals.
You know, good old little Susan, member of the LDS.
She liked to do these little teasing things to him.
Showering daily is not a tease.
She would wax her legs and walk over to his office and say, "Feel how smooth they are." There's actually a video of it. We're going to get to this in a second, guys. Hold on. I was just a little too excited about it. Alina, little sister Alina, also did an interview where she said that Susan would walked into a room, didn't pay any attention to her, and she seemed very upset about it, but beelined straight to Steve to have him feel her legs after they were freshly waxed.
Weird.
I know. Steve went on and complained that she was very obviously leading him on and teasing him. One night, he said she wanted me to massage her feet and legs. She had been standing up the whole day, and I moved her feet. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Prepare for this, you guys. I'm sorry, this really bothers me reading this. Okay, she had been standing up the whole day, and I moved her feet to my crotch so she could feel what she was doing to me, and that went on for about an hour. She didn't move it. Then he said I couldn't take it anymore. So I confessed my love for Susan, and I didn't want her to move to Utah. There was already enough feeling there that she would stay, and she got really upset with me. She wouldn't talk to me for months. I was so shocked to find out that she was missing. I was sick for days. I couldn't function.
I will allow y'all a few seconds to puke.
Yeah, take your time.
Let's bring it back.
Mm-hmm. So this was actually a conversation he was having with police that he told all of this to. In the police notes, they said that Steve was, quote, aroused and nostalgic while recounting all of his alleged sexual incidents with Susan. End quote.
Yeah. This is...
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. In the meantime, Josh kept working on his website for Susan. He deliberately was using the most unflattering photos of her. And when people would call him out on it, he would say, "Oh, it's to show that Susan wasn't perfect."
Fuck you, Josh.
Yeah. The site also claimed that Susan was emotionally abused as a child. She was mentally unbalanced and had come on to Steve sexually. She also apparently had renounced her Mormon faith and ran away with another man.
It's just disgusting.
Interestingly, there was a reporter in the same, like in Salt Lake City, that had gone missing at this same time.
Oh, I remember that.
And Josh claimed they ran away together.
Oh, God.
But to everyone's knowledge, Susan never knew this man. Yeah.
Thinking on his feet.
Yep. Ugh. So, we're going to skip ahead a little bit more. In January of 2010, Josh started packing up his house to move to Washington, but he didn't sell the house in Utah. I read a report that he was trying to rent it out, but no one...
I don't think that they could because of the ongoing investigation.
Yeah. He had professional movers come to help pack up the place. The same neighbor that was talking to Charlie at the vigil came over and said, "Can I help pack Susan's things up?" And Josh said, "Yeah, I don't care as long as it gets done."
I'm impressed he even still had any of her stuff in the house.
So she responds to him, "Well, you can store her things at my place so you don't have to bring them to Washington." He said, "No, I'll take them with me. She might come back or something."
Real hopeful.
To Washington, where they moved?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
I'm about to make you very upset. After the U-Haul was all packed up, he joked to his neighbors, "I just loaded Susan's head in the truck. Oh, you know those ketchup stains? They're probably blood."
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
You found something? Okay, there's another thing I didn't
You didn't know about that?
No, I didn't know about that. Like, I was like, what are you going to tell me that I don't know? We're to the part where I know everything.
Josh ended up moving back in with Steve. But at this point, they are closer to the Cox family, which is awesome. So Chuck and Judy are doing everything they can to spend time with their grandsons. And actually, Josh lets them. I don't think he knows how to be a parent. Or
Yeah, because he needed Mike and Elena to come out and literally do everything for him.
Also, I just don't think he wanted to try to be a parent. So he's just like, okay.
Yeah.
At one point, a member of Susan's family was actually reading a book to the kids when Brayden pointed to a character's chest and said, "Mommy has an owie," like on the chest. They asked Brayden, who was 3 at this time, "Do you know what happened to Mommy?" He says, "It's a big secret." And then Charlie chimed in and said, "Well, Mom went camping, but she didn't come home. She stayed where the crystals are." There's also a report at school. Charlie told a teacher, "My mommy is dead."
Yeah. Charlie stays pretty consistent and solid in his story, which is shocking considering Josh was probably feeding him a different story and obviously telling them to keep this a secret. And obviously Charlie is talking about this enough that Brayden now knows all of it. So, like...
Oh, we're going to get into that in a
Oh, I
minute.
know, but like it's just always amazed me how much Charlie has very much stood on this and will not... For 4, and then to go through and has very much stood on that ground.
Yes. At this point, the Cox family had national support. They went on the Dr. Phil show to talk about Susan. They said her favorite color was purple, so all of the neighbors where Josh was saying was putting up purple ribbons on their trees as like a big fuck you to Josh. Unfortunately, he fought with the HOA to have them all removed.
What a dick.
Unless they were private property. So, a ton of private landowners hung up posters of Susan all over their front lawns.
Yeah.
It was it got bad enough to the point where Josh and Steve had to put a huge privacy fence around their house.
Yeah. I like this.
Yeah. He also went back to the house in Utah, and it was covered in purple ribbons. There were ribbons and signs for and photos of Susan literally everywhere. Clearly, Josh was pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he got back to Washington, at that point, he did everything he could to keep Charlie and Brayden away from the Cox family. They ran into each other at Lowe's at one point, and he refused to let them even hug each other.
This is such a common theme that we see with domestic violence and the kids afterwards.
Yep. Josh claimed that Chuck actually threatened him by mouthing the words, "You're dead to me."
I mean, that's not really a threat. It's just a statement. He didn't say, "You're going to be dead," or "You're dead." He said, "You're dead to me."
Yeah.
I mean, it's a statement.
I agree. The summer of 2010, Josh wanted the kids gone. But he didn't want to, take care of them, and he didn't want the Cox family to see them. So he sent the boys to summer camp. And he had no idea that Brayden would draw the now famous picture at summer camp.
Yeah.
The teacher saw, I guess the camp counselor saw this photo and said, "Brayden, tell me about your picture. What's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh, it's us going camping." And she points, she's like, "Oh, who's that?" "That's Daddy, that's Charlie, and that's me." "And there's one more picture." "Oh, who's that?" Or, I'm sorry, "There's one more person." "Oh, who's that?" "Mommy's in the trunk." "Why is she in the trunk?" He got a little bit confused and said, "We stopped, and Mommy and Daddy got out, and Mommy never came back." Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, this photo is still not considered evidence.
That part always kills me.
Yep. Around Susan's 29th birthday, everyone at church gathered together and they released 150 balloons as tribute. Meanwhile, the Powell family was releasing Susan's diary entries. They would send them to the press and say things like, "Susan is a lot more vulnerable emotionally than Chuck and Judy Cox would like people to believe."
Because that's going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. However, the Cox family was represented by a passionate Seattle attorney, pro bono. If you don't know what pro bono means, it means it was all free. They didn't have to pay anything.
$3.99.
Yeah. And they filed a civil suit against Josh and his family. And the judge also barred the Powells from publishing any more of Susan's diary.
Yay.
Mm-hmm. But even then, Josh and Steve would come out and call Susan a tramp and that she abandoned her family. Yeah. With all of this information coming out, the police decided to do an investigation on Steve. They searched his house and found thousands and thousands of photos and videos and hard drives of Susan and other women and child pornography.
Say it with me, guys. We're shocked.
That was a shocked sound. I don't know.
It sounded more like...
It sounded
I don't know
ethereal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. I don't know what sound that was. We're going to play a couple of clips for you really quick. Just so you can see and hear some of the things that he was saying and how he thought she was just so in love with him.
It's gross.
These clips made me physically sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Physically sick.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Enjoy.
Powell.
A day in the life of Susan.
Right.
Now you have to follow me to work.
Right. Now you gotta look straight on.
No.
No, move your hand, move the box. I fantasize that she'll come down here and join me, but so far that's a daydream that hasn't come true.
It'd be great to go to Colorado and see a different part of the U.S., you know?
Yeah. I'm probably wrong, but I've really fallen in love with you. Maybe I'm interpreting something that I shouldn't be interpreting. It just, for example, when we were sitting on the couch, it just felt like you were very, I mean, I was extremely aroused, and I think you were somewhat aroused, at least I thought.
I don't know where you're going with this.
And Susan, I don't. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I'm. Where
I'm married to your son, and I should just be the daughter-in-law,
I know.
which puts me a step beneath your own children,
Okay.
and that's where I'm comfortable. I was kind of meaning to talk to you about this. My own father doesn't kiss me, and you kiss me, and I didn't like that.
There should be no
The investigation also uncovered disturbing behavior from Josh's father, Stephen Powell, clearly. Stephen had developed a very unhealthy obsession with Susan, documenting his infatuation through journals, photos, and videos, and all the love songs we talked about earlier, which I'm very happy I never got to hear. However, Stephen said that his only regret in life was that the sexual part of his relationship with Susan didn't go further. He said, quote, Susan is a beautiful woman, and when a beautiful woman comes onto you like that, it's really hard to resist that kind of thing, end quote.
Blech.
Yeah. For me personally, if you watch the videos, there were some people who watched it and said, oh, you can tell she was flirting. It's just or maybe she was being a 19-year-old in a house that she just moved into, and she was trying to be nice, because women have to be nice to get out of uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. Just.
Except for me, I will literally hit you in the throat.
Yeah, so.
Don't try.
I can understand that part of it. Just it's so uncomfortable, and instead of
Or also,
causing a scene or whatever, we're just going to go with what's happening.
she went to her husband and said, "Your dad's a creep," and he said, "No, he's not." So she had no support. So
Yeah.
she had to get through it somehow.
Yeah. But you can also see in most of the clips, she doesn't even know she's being recorded.
Yeah, which is a problem in itself.
It's nasty. Or even, she knew she's being recorded and she's just trying not to pay attention. But he's zooming in on,
Yeah.
It's disgusting. I'm sorry, you guys had to watch it. I watched it, you watched it. Deal with it. But all of this led to Steve's arrest in 2011 on charges of voyeurism and possession of child pornography.
Finally.
He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. He also died in 2018, I believe it was, recently, of natural causes.
So unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'm really tore up over here.
Yep.
Oh, no.
The investigation was still dragging on. Josh ended up losing custody of his children in 2011. After the charges against his father exposed a dangerous family environment. Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, were granted custody of Charlie and Brayden, though Josh was allowed supervised visits.
Which pisses me off to this day.
Yes. In the last week of 2012, the Utah police discovered more photos on Josh's computer. 400 pictures of simulated, bestiality and incest, porn of cartoon characters that he created. He also had Emma Watson's face photoshopped onto many nude models. Yeah.
I forgot that part.
Yeah.
I think I blocked it out.
Yeah, it's just
That's understandable.
all around. We're not surprised, though, knowing who his father is. So.
Well, I mean, I forgot the Emma Watson part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I knew you figured.
Yeah.
You meant that.
On Sunday, February 5th of 2012, he was busy running errands. He was preparing for the kids to come over because he was having a supervised visit that day. He actually withdrew $7,000. He ended up going to a storage unit to pick up toys and books that he ended up donating to the Social Army, and then he ended up buying 2 gallons of gasoline. When the social worker arrived to his home with the boys, they ran up to the door. Josh greeted them and told them that he had a surprise for them. He then dragged his sons inside and slammed the door in the social worker's face. This totally caught her off guard, and she knocked on the door, yelling for Josh, saying, "Hey, I need to come in there." Josh isn't allowed to do this. She has to oversee literally everything, but Josh wasn't responding. She could hear noise coming from inside the house, though, so okay, weird. She then started to smell something that smelled like gas. Problem.
Yeah.
This alarmed her, so she began banging on the door, demanding Josh to open it. This wasn't getting anywhere, so she ran to her car to get her phone and call 911 for help. We are going to play that call for you really quick, but before we do, I'm going to warn you right now, this is one of the worst 911 calls I've ever heard.
It's horrible.
We've said that before, but this is, when we say that we have a top 5 of 911 calls, this is our number 1. It's not a good list. You don't want to make this list. This is not a top 5 of, like, the best dispatchers.
Yeah.
No, this is a list of, like,
bad.
the worst examples of what to do.
So we're going to play part of this for you.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house, and the parent, the biological parent, whose name is Josh Powell, will not let me in the door. What should I do?
What's the address?
It's 8119, and I think it's 89th. I don't know what the address is.
Okay, that's pretty important for me to know.
Sorry, I can't. Just a minute. Let me get in my car and see if I can find it. You can't find me by GPS?
No.
But I think I need help right away. He's on a very short lease with CSHS, and CPS has been involved. And this is the craziest thing. He looked right at me and closed the door. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting to know where you are.
Okay. It's 8119 189th Street, Court East, Puyallup, 98375. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because I smell gasoline and he won't let me in.
You want to pull out of the driveway because you smell gasoline, but he won't let you...
He won't let me in.
He won't let you out of the driveway?
He won't let me in the house.
Whose house
He's
is
got the
it?
kids in the house and he won't let me in. It's a supervised visit.
I understand. Whose house is it?
Josh Powell.
Okay, so you don't live there, right?
No, I don't. No, I'm contracted to the state to provide supervised visitation.
I see. Okay.
And the kids have been in there by now approximately 10 minutes. And he knows this is a supervised visit. 2. Brayden is 5 and Charlie is 7.
And the dad's last name?
Powell, Powell. L.
2 L's? 2 L's at the end of Powell?
Yes.
His first name?
His first name is Josh.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, native?
He's white.
Date of birth?
I don't know. He's about 39.
How tall?
5'10", 150 pounds.
Hair color?
Brown.
Did you notice what he was wearing?
No, I didn't notice what he was wearing.
Is he alone then, or is anybody...
I don't know. I couldn't get in the house.
Are you in a vehicle now or on foot?
I'm in a vehicle. I'm in a Prius, a 2010 Prius.
What color
with
is
the doors locked. But he hasn't opened the door.
Ma'am,
I rang the doorbell and everything.
What color
I
is
begged him to let me in.
Elizabeth, please listen to my questions. What color is the Toyota Prius?
Gray, dark gray.
And the license number?
I don't know. I can look. ZMH.
Zebra Mary Henry?
Yes.
All right, we'll have somebody look for you there.
Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first. The first available deputy...
Well, this could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really... I'm afraid for their lives.
Okay, has he threatened the lives of the children previously?
I have no idea.
All right. We'll have the first available deputy contact you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
So that was annoying.
Like, I'm sorry, but we've had to sit through that, so now you did too.
Mm-hmm.
My most annoying part of this entire call is how long it takes her to find this address. And I have talked to her so much about this part of this 911 call because it kills me. Why, as a social worker, why is that not so readily available? Why did she not have that paperwork in her hand going up to the house? Why did it take her so long to find that address?
Because a lot of times, especially back then, you get the address in an email. And we put it into our phone or wherever else, or we just know where it is. Like, do you know the address here?
Well, not off the top of my head. I have to look for it.
I do.
Exactly. So, and then it's also an emergency situation. And 9 times out of 10, there's no training for this situation. So, like, what are you going to do? You know,
Not
and
what
even,
she did.
And even to remember, like, the street, like, she tried. But also, she couldn't even get across to the dispatcher that, like, who she was.
Yes, and that's the other part, is that he is absolutely
He was like,
useless
who are
and
you?
stupid.
Where's your supervisor? Doesn't fucking matter where my supervisor is.
Also,
this house is on
Who's
fire.
wait, so he's
not on
supervising
fire
the visit
yet.
himself? Who's supervising the visit? I am. How can you supervise the visit if you're the visit? I'm not the visit. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't you inside? He locked me out.
Yeah.
Who's he? Is he supervising the visit? Why aren't you in the house?
Yeah.
The other part that gets to me about this is we'll send someone over. It's not a life or death situation, so when there's not an emergency, we'll send someone over.
There's gas coming from the house and he locked her out.
Yes.
It's because the dispatcher didn't understand.
So anyway, yes, she should have had paperwork. There should have had something with the address on it, but also at the same time, as someone who's done this service, you usually have like a diaper bag, bags of things.
You're taking two boys with you.
Piles of paperwork in your car. Like, you're not expecting this situation to happen. So I feel for her. Like, unless you just have a photographic memory and can, like, rattle off that stuff, I couldn't tell you people's addresses. I could be like, you go down this street and 4 rights and a left and you're there. Greenhouse.
That would have been more helpful.
I'm also going to play a small devil's advocate. When you're in crazy situations like that, your mind goes blank.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're just
panic.
like, wait, what do I need to do? Adrenaline kicks in, and it's kicking in a different part of your body, not up here. That's
I've been there. I was in my early 20s in a situation where I was like, I remember looking in the mirror and going, I've got this. I don't need an adult. I'm an adult. I'm fine. And like a minute later, I went, I am not the adult for this situation. We need an adult. I need a bigger adult here.
We need an adult that can successfully adult.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, I've been in those where it's...
I get it.
You don't work.
I will say that since this all happened and we, like, lived through it and talked all the time, like, when I would go to people's houses, I would be like, there's this landmark, and I, ADHD, anxiety, whatever, play conversations in my head, because I feel like the more you have it in your head, the easier it is to say in an emergency. So I would be like, you go to the Exxon and you turn left and there's a church and this and that.
Well, that's how you give directions in West Virginia, so...
That's true.
So that's what was going on the outside of the house. Let's go over what was happening inside of the house.
Because it's way worse.
I need you guys to buckle up again. I know you've already been buckled. We're going to buckle a second buckle. Okay?
Engaged.
Safety buckle. After Josh grabbed the boys and slammed the door, he took an axe and struck each of the boys in the head. Josh then poured gasoline everywhere.
He had already turned the gas on in the house. That's what the...
And then poured more gasoline everywhere.
On the boys, too.
Onto the boys. And set the house on fire. While the social worker was on the phone with the police, an explosion happened. And it was the fire in the house.
Because he turned on all the gas lines.
Mm-hmm. That is when the second 911 call came in.
Yep.
Hello?
Hi, ma'am. Were you calling about the fire in the 8200 block of
Yes,
188th Street,
exploded
Party?
the house.
Ma'am,
Yes,
do you know
it exploded the house.
Okay, do you know the exact address of the house, or are you...
Yes, it's 8119 189th Street, Court East,
Okay,
2 hours.
okay, stand line. Do you know if anyone's in the house?
Yes, there was a man and
Okay.
2 children. I just dropped off the children, and he wouldn't let me in the door.
Okay, stand line for the fire department. Okay, I'm going to get them on the line. Do not hang up. Hold on.
The explosion killed Josh and his 2 sons. However, the autopsy of the boys showed that they had smoke in their lungs, so they actually died from asphyxiation, not the axe blows.
Which makes something that you couldn't think of.
You couldn't
I believe
fathom.
Even more unfathomable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Later, investigators found that Josh had deliberately planned the murder-suicide. He left behind goodbye messages and gave away personal belongings in the days leading up to the crime.
Didn't he send those emails and texts minutes before he did this, before the boys got there?
It was a devastating conclusion that left the Cox family and the nation in mourning.
Oh, and Susan's parents were pissed because
Rightfully
they didn't think the boys should have been going on the supervised visits. They tried to fight so hard against it and did not want it happening. And they even told them that this was going to happen.
So you remember that one little piece of detail that I told you to hold on to in your head?
The
about
car?
A car being scrapped? Well, February 11th of 2013, so approximately 1 year after the death of Josh and his sons, Michael Powell, his brother, killed himself in Minneapolis by jumping off the roof of a parking garage. Police previously questioned Michael several times within 2012 after discovering his abandoned Ford at that Oregon wrecking yard. It is very heavily speculated on that that vehicle was helped to move her body, and that Michael had a part in disposing of her.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, everyone who would know is gone.
It was a family affair.
Except for maybe Alina.
But I don't know how much she actually knows.
That's true. It's an absolute assumption. We don't know for sure. This is just an opinion here. But we just got to tell you guys the facts. Despite extensive searches, Susan's body has never been found, and her case remains officially unsolved. At one point, the police found bones inside of a mine shaft, but after they did tests, these bones were determined to be animal remains. Authorities believe that Josh was responsible for her disappearance and likely disposed of her body in Utah's remote wilderness. The inability to locate her remains has left her family and loved ones without full closure.
This is awful.
It is. Well, now the Cox family has lost a daughter and 2 grandsons.
Yeah.
Screw the son-in-law. But they lost these extremely important people in their lives. It could, at least the boys for sure, could have definitely been
Saved.
safe.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why supervised visits were ever allowed with Susan missing and him being uncooperative and what they found. And for the reason they took the boys away from him, and let alone to have the supervised visits at his house and not in, is it the courthouse, or they have buildings where they have the supervised visits?
So the way that this case worked was, one, Josh's whole case, the whole criminal thing, everything started in Utah. He then moved in the middle of a criminal investigation to Washington. So Utah sealed all of those records, which means that they're not sharing them with anybody. So Utah police requested that Washington police go and search the Powell home because of whatever tips they got. In that search, all of Steve's material was found, and then that's when the kids were deemed unsafe. Washington had no idea, they hadn't gotten any referrals and stuff yet.
With the investigation.
So they said, okay, well, Steve is unsafe, but he's no longer in the home. That was the perpetrator to the child crimes. So they didn't have anything on Josh yet.
Yeah.
So in a CPS case, the non-offending parent, if they are no longer around the offender, is allowed to have visitation. There was a fatality report done by Washington. There is a state child protective service worker, which every state calls them something different, and I'm just going to call them the CPS worker. The state CPS worker is basically a case manager. And so basically they're like, did you do your drug screen? Did you do this? Did you do that? They contract everything else out. So the supervised visits go to a different agency. That worker that night was a contract worker. So she only gets whatever information CPS gives her. So that could be, I mean,
which she had good info. I mean, like she knew a lot. I mean, the information she was giving was she knew a lot.
However, the actual CPS worker in this case was excellent. Like they originally the supervised visits were at the contract agency's office building.
Okay.
So they were there. However, because Josh had been doing everything that he'd been wanting to do, he put in a motion for the visits to be moved to his house. And the agency said, you know what, that would actually work out better because this is such a high profile case that it's causing an issue for other families that we have here. Because there's reporters outside, there's everything.
I remember that.
It was causing a safety issue for other families.
I remember that part now.
CPS cases are supposed to be confidential.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not public knowledge. People can't just go in and sit in on those hearings.
Yeah.
Josh was also court ordered to undergo a sexual psychosocial to determine if he's a predator, anything like that, because of his history and Steve's. So the results of that came in. Josh had filed a motion to get the kids back. The judge said, no, I've read your report. You're not getting them back. He never disclosed why, and that reason was never made apparent to the fatality committee, to the state, to anybody.
Good on that judge, though.
Yeah, way
the
to go.
fatality committee said, or I'm sorry, the judge said he can have supervised visits at his house. He was getting them on Sundays and I believe Wednesdays, and the visit throughout the week was being supervised by another family member. And then the contract worker who had actually been doing all the supervised visits, she had said that the boys were like her grandkids, that they called her some form of grandma. She did an interview and talked about how much she loved them and how devastated she was when they got out of the car and ran it. Like, all of her notes said that he provided food for them at the visits. He provided an activity for them at the visits. He was like your model parent.
So a 180 from what he originally was.
So 180 from what everybody. And the thing with the supervised worker is that you only see what's there. So if they present their best side, the natural progression for these cases is to go to the house, see how they act in the house, catch any red flags there. Is there anything weird on their screensaver? And all of that gets put in a report, but she didn't have any of that. Every time that there was a change in where the visitation was, the actual CPS worker went to the guardian ad litem, which is the attorney for the children, went to the attorney for the state, went to the law enforcement officers that she had contact with, and said, hey, are you guys okay with that? And they all collectively said, yes, it's okay to progress to this. But also, Utah was not telling them anything. And when they would talk to the Utah law enforcement people, they were saying, well, we're pretty sure he probably did it. But that's not, like, you can't do anything with that.
Yeah.
So it's crappy because I feel like these social workers are doing everything that they could do. They didn't have all the information.
And that's such a problem that we see is when people cross state lines is that information isn't carried over as well. It's a lot harder. I mean, that's what we see with a lot of serial killers. You cross state lines and it makes it easier. Shoot, going even a county over makes it easier.
One of the faults, so in the report, the fatality committee said that the workers did everything they could have done. Their notes were incredible. Like, everything was there. And they did every step they could have. The only thing that they found fault with was that they didn't do a thorough enough domestic violence interview, which is like there's a set, I think, of 3 or 5 questions you ask, and if you answer yes to any of those, and there's more restrictive things that come in, and I don't know if they either didn't do it or they didn't keep following up with it, because the reports that had they done that and like really investigated her being missing, then that would have checked the boxes for the domestic violence.
Me personally, I don't blame the CPS people at all. I feel like they did she did everything she could, even as a contractor.
Yeah. But right after this came out, everybody was blaming her, especially for that 911 call. I mean, Jackie even did with like, how do you not know the address?
And I'm not gonna lie, legit, because that 911 call is the thing that goes around. Like I said, the reason that this is one of my, I don't want to say like favorite cases, but one of the ones that like knows well is because there's a video of this that floats around on Facebook, and every time I see it, it's like 25, 30 minutes long, but I stop because it has that and it has so much information and it's so well done. But that 911 call is the biggest face of this case.
Yeah.
The dispatcher was getting the CPS worker flustered and the questions of stupidity, because that honestly, like, I have more anger for that dispatcher than I do for the 100%. CPS worker, because he was not helpful in that, but because that's the only thing about this case that's just so put out there, I'm not surprised she was so attacked in this, because the first 2 times I attacked the crap out of her, I ain't gonna lie.
But also these contract workers get sent into the craziest situations. Like, I did contract visitation work before I was a CPS worker, like when I was still in college getting my bachelor's in social work. And the very first supervised visit case that I was sent on, the worker called me. She was like, hey, can you do this supervised visit to little kids? And I was like, sure, whatever. And she was like, it's at their house. I'm like, okay. She calls me an hour before I have to go, tells me that it's out in like bumfuck nowhere, where I don't ever want to go. And then she's like, oh yeah, by the way, the dad's a sex offender. His age group is 16. I'm like 20. I'm like, great, I look 16. This is awesome. And she's like, and it's supposed to snow tonight, so good luck getting up the mountain.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Oh, cool. No.
So I go up there, and it's in West Virginia, so there's like coal mines everywhere. And I pass like one of the guard shacks, and I stop, and I was like, hey, take note of my car. If I'm not back, if you don't see me, I'll honk at you, because it's gonna be late. It's in the middle of the winter. I was like, if I don't come back in like 4.5 hours, come look for me. I'm right up here, 4 houses on the left. And they're like, okay. Everything was fine. The family was super nice. Lots of people there. Like, thankfully it worked out. Like, I had no training before that, other than like, just go and take notes of everything you see up there.
That's crazy though.
And I'm like, cool, I guess this is what you do. I come back, honk. It ended up being great. The next day, my cousin called me and was like, why the hell were you up there? And I'm like, how did you know? And he was like, nobody else in West Virginia has a Prius. I'm like, okay, cool. It was powder blue, but whatever. So anyway, that long story all to say that, like, there's not always training. They just send you to do whatever. And even as a CPS worker, when I did that for a while, like, they're like, if you think it's an unsafe situation, you can request that police go with you, but they don't have to. Unless it's a removal and you're going to the home to remove kids, then they have to go with you. But there's even been times with that when, like, the police stood behind me and all I had was an umbrella. So, like...
She also has, like, a false sense of confidence for some of this, being married to a police officer with a, like, text away down here.
I was.
Like,
Yeah.
I felt way better about her going to people's houses because I knew she could just call her husband.
With all of this information, the Cox family actually sued the state.
Good.
There was a very long, drawn out process.
Wrongful death lawsuit.
Yep.
A what?
A very long, like, wrongful death lawsuit.
Okay.
Yes. So they sued the state for the wrongful death of the boys. And I'm not going to go into details. You can find it pretty easily. But on April 19th of 2023.
So, like, last year?
Yes. They ended up winning $98.5 million.
Holy shit! Y'all, I didn't know about this part at all, so I'm just here for the ride with you now. What?
Yes.
You said 98?
$98.5 million.
So when they had originally...
I mean, that doesn't do anything for, like, what happened.
No.
Like, boy, I mean, at
And
least
that was
we're
just of
crying
the
in a house
boys.
and not a cardboard box.
That's just the boys. That has nothing to do with Susan.
So originally when they had filed that lawsuit, the verdict was that they didn't get it because the state didn't kill the boys. Josh did.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came back and said, well, yeah, but it's because of your negligence that he had the opportunity. And then it finally just came back and they sided with the Coxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Powell case has become a chilling reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the failures of the legal system to protect victims. Susan's disappearance, coupled with the tragic deaths of her children, has led to reforms in child custody laws and domestic violence awareness campaigns. Chuck and Judy Cox have worked tirelessly to keep Susan's memory alive and to advocate for changes that could prevent similar tragedies. Though over a decade has passed since Susan's disappearance and the subsequent murder-suicide, the Powell case remains a heartbreaking story of loss, missed warning signals, and the enduring resilience of Susan's family in seeking justice and remembrance. Susan's life before her disappearance reflects the resilience and dedication of a woman who loved her family deeply. Her legacy lives on through the Susan Cox Powell Foundation, established to support victims of domestic violence and families of missing persons.
That's awesome.
If you or anyone you know is suffering from domestic violence, there is help available. Please call 1-800-799-7233 or text the word BEGIN, BEGIN, to 88788. They are available 24/7 and in over 200 languages.
And that's also on the website.
Yes.
Yes.
All of this information is also on our website. We have plenty of resources for more than just domestic violence.
Our website is justiceforpodcast.com, and on there you can find all of our episodes, all of our social medias, but you can also find our resources page, which has all this information, and this is who puts it in for you.
Yes.
Also, on our website, you can submit a case. We've gotten two case submissions this week, and it's awesome.
Really?
And this is who has to weed through them, and she gives us little links and articles and summarizes it, and then we do it for you. So
she
some
doesn't
work.
further into it, so it ends up being really fucked up.
And then we yell at her,
Yeah.
and it's great.
I really don't. I just oh, that's got plenty of articles. Let's stick it in a folder for them. Because I like watching the episodes and hearing all the information.
Perfect. Yeah, so she tries to do as little as possible. She writes our descriptions as well, so she's like, I skim a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She likes to enjoy.
That's fair.
Thank you, ladies, for letting me crash your podcast today.
Thank you for crashing it.
Thank you so much.
I'm so proud of us.
High five.
I've been wanting her on this so bad for her social work side, and she's told me no. So I'm so happy this is happening.
Yes. Really quick, just because we have to talk about this.
Wow.
I don't know if we got justice.
I think because of the foundation, they're making changes.
Yeah.
And that is almost a form of justice.
And I also think the changes that was made afterwards, CPS-wise.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, the asshole's dead.
Period.
So that's a little bit of justice. We don't have any justice for Susan, per se.
Yeah.
But we definitely have justice for the boys.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would say that we have justice for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have justice for Susan, and I don't really know if we ever will.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
keeping her alive helps.
Oh, and she's being kept alive, even after all these years.
Oh, yeah.
She is one of the most talked about missing persons
Like
out
I
there.
said, her story pops across my Facebook at least twice a year
Yeah.
in those long videos. And
But that is all we have for you. We hope you guys, it is New Year's Eve.
So please be safe tonight. Get you a DD.
Yes.
Please.
All that jazz.
Don't become an episode, okay? Don't.
But we are recording this before Christmas, so we hope all of you had a fantastic Christmas.
We're about to go have our Christmas now. This is my Christmas present.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I got. You guys?
I don't got anything. Do you got anything?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, okay. Love you. Bye.